Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. Welcome, Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses. All right, today's Wednesday, February 1st. 32 days into the new year, just 333 days left, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world. All across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Yeah, happy Wednesday to everybody. Man, I hate it when people say that, but I just did. Happy Wednesday. The weekend is right in front of us. Oh, man. All right. Had to hustle back to the chair, and I unplugged my headphones. Had to scramble. I use, right now I'm using the Beats 2 Studio, right? And the headphones, the cable, actually plugs into a jack into the headphones. It's the easiest thing to unplug in the world. It is. It's got a little volume control and stuff, too. I don't really use that. But yeah, I yanked it out, man. Yanked it out. Look at the gifts. You guys are flying in Twitter already, bright and early. Look at all of them. You guys are good. You guys are good. All right, tonight, Whitley Strieber is here. The great author, orator, Whitley Strieber's here. And we're going to go into the zones that we've never gone into before with Whitley tonight, and I'm excited about that. He is instrumental with so many of us out there. And we're not going to talk about the cover of Communion tonight, but the cover of Communion, right? All right, so that's who's with us tonight, Whitley Strieber. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. Call numbers 323-825-5045. Okay. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, Facebook, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black. You know what to do. Go over to the website. Click on everything. Follow, like, and subscribe. You can email throughout the show tonight. Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. The sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. That means Fade to Black. Hashtag F2B. The sandbox. Come and hang out with us over there. Everything is done in real time. Any questions or comments during the show right now? And I am going to actually, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to, before this gets away from me, I'm going to retweet Mark Tarana last night, the illustration of the Cedarville object by Mark McCandlish. And I'll be talking about this in a minute. Keep this close. There you go. Okay, so everybody just keep that nice and close to you. KGRA done. Okay, tweet. Okay, it's back out. Go ahead and retweet it. There it is. Okay. Subscribe to our podcast. We have over 600 archive shows. Yeah, we hit that number 600 today as we hit the distribution on everything, YouTube and the podcast and stuff, and getting it out there, iHeartRadio. Seeing that number 600 is pretty cool. Okay, so there we are. No fanfare, no fireworks, no explosions. We just blew past 600, and we will actually celebrate when we get to 1,000. But we did. So over on the podcast right now, we have over 600 archive shows. We have custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms, Kindle. So just go to iTunes, go to the Google Store, search for Fade to Black, download the app, and then go and subscribe. $2 per month for 600 archive shows. There you go. Best deal on the net. JimmyChurchRadio.com. The banners are right there. Click on the podcast banner. Make it happen. It helps support the show. Every little bit helps, even at $2 a month. Trust me, it's all good. Thank you for your support. Check out all of our sponsors. Click on their banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Use the promo codes for discounts and free shipping. All the promo codes are in the banners. Everything is there. Conscious Life Expo is there. The Contact in the Desert is there. Life Change Tea, Studio Dome, and of course, River Moon Coffee and their Fade to Black blend. And so the proprietors of Fade to Black blend coffee, River Moon Coffee, will be at the Conscious Life Expo, by the way. And I might have a little bit of Fade to Black blend to hand out. So we'll toss some to the audience during our live broadcast on Friday night, February 10th at the Conscious Life Expo. So come and hang out with us. We'll have T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And it's just going to be a very fun event. Same thing is going to go on at Contact in the Desert, May 19th through the 22nd. All tickets and information for both of those conferences are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All right, let's get this show cracking. Today, Weezer, Stickman, the one and only Patrick Wilson, today is 48. And I like Weezer, by the way. That's a Hollywood band. What was that guitar player's name? Rivers Cuomo? That dude was pretty badass, man. Rivers. And you know what was cool? Weezer being the band that they were, but every time you saw a picture of Rivers, he always had like an Yngwie Malmsteen shirt on. Something crazy. Some crazy rock and roll shirt. Cool dude. Pauly Shore today is 49. Michael C. Hall is 46. You know what? I'm going to light this up in Twitter right now. I'm going to do this. What was better, if you're into Michael C. Hall? What was better, Dexter or 6 Feet Under? What was a better show? You know, that first season of Dexter was pretty epic, and I get that. But 6 Feet Under was strong. You know, so I don't know, because Dexter kind of waned off and got a little weak and had an awful ending. Ended up being, a lumberjack in Alaska or something at the end of the Dexter. But what was better, Dexter or 6 Feet Under? Let's see where your tastes are. You guys are probably gonna go Dexter, aren't you? Yeah, I know you. Also today, Lisa Marie Presley is 49. Our dead guys' birthdays today are, plural, Brandon Lee, Clark Gable, Rick James, and Sherman Hemsley. There you go. All of them have departed this earth, but they're listening to us right now. Happy birthday, Brandon, Clark, Rick, and Sherman. On this day in history in 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia breaks up while entering the atmosphere over Texas, killing all 7 crew members aboard. I will never forget that day. Rita and I were at our apartment over in North Hollywood. And I was excited, the Space Shuttle, and we had one of the news channels on, probably CNN. And it was CNN because it was their science guy, the pilot. I can't remember his name right now. O'Brien, Miles O'Brien. and because they were going to capture images of it, right? And so I'm watching it right there, sitting on the couch, and it blows up, right? And I'll never forget that day. That was trippy, and I can't believe that was 2003, and I know exactly what and where everything, where I was that day. There you go. Man. Fader fact. The largest nuclear bomb ever detonated, the Tsar Bomba, Russian, was 1,400 times more powerful than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. And that was a Fader fact. All right, let's see. Okay, yeah. I have to agree. I quit watching Dexter after a bit. I hear you. Yeah, I kind of got weak at the end. All right, tonight, Whitley Strieber joins us. Tomorrow night's another Fader Night with John Rappaport. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. All right. Last night, great show with Mark McCandlish last night. And during the last segment, I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation that we had with Mark last night, and I know that all of you did too. And during the last segment, I brought up the Cedarville, California UFO sighting from 1982. And Mark took us through the event, and that the craft was very low, looked like it was having mechanical issues, and he said that its nose was pointed to the ground. There's an illustration of the craft, which was done by Mark, and it's over on his website. And yes, like I had said last night, it looks like origami, right? That's what it looks like, the good kind of origami. So, and I retweeted out, there it is. You can see the craft here. Thank you, Mark, for retweeting it again. Everybody open up this illustration. Now, that's pretty cool. Okay, and you look at this, it's symmetrical. You can see that there's, two sides to it, and it's faceted, and what's curious here are these three domes, right? Okay. Now, it's almost too good to be true. There were also, when you see something like this, it's just too good to be true. I mean, it's just like, wow, right? Okay, but this is 1982. And there were also a dozen or two witnesses, he was telling us, to the event, who were watching the whole thing. And that it lasted for 30 minutes. Not 30 seconds, not a minute, 30 minutes. And that there was, a couple of dozen people, and they were there watching this thing go through its trouble. And then in the end, the craft did some kind of roll, right? Nose over tail or tail over nose, does a roll, pointed to the sky, started to take off, and then shot off. Boom, and is gone, right? Gone. Well, I brought up that reportedly there was a Polaroid of the craft. And I wanted to know if it was real and if it would ever be made public. Because, you see, with events like this, that have everything. Multiple witnesses, pictures, amazing feeds, crazy stuff going on, lights, and you get all of this. And it makes for a great story, but there is always the burden of proof. And when you hear that there are pictures or video, there were people there with cameras, but things never surface. And it goes away, right? We're just stuck with a great story, but it's left to myth and legend status. Well, last night after the show, Mark and I stayed on the phone for about 15 minutes and kind of continuing our conversation that we were having live on the air. And it was great, but I brought up the Polaroid again after the show. And he said that he would contact the copyright holder, that, it's not his, and I respect that, to see if we can get the rights to publish it. And again, I was like, oh, man. I respect Mark and I respect the story. I really do. But when it comes down to this, it's the burden of proof, right? What do we have? Where's the evidence? The rest of the world looks at us when we have a story like this and we have the witnesses and we have everything, but there isn't any evidence, there isn't any proof of anything that this event actually happened, right? And it's exhausting because it happens time and time again. And when it got to the end where, to get the rights to publish it, dude, okay, if we publish it, great, and we have the story, that's cool, but that's not where I'm going. I just want to know if it's real and can I see it? That's all. I just want to see it. Well, he made me promise to keep it private, and he let me see it. He did. And I'm going to say this. Holy guacamole, Batman. It's real. And it's exactly as described. It's exactly what you see in Mark's illustration. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to describe to you the photograph. There is a crowd. There's a crowd, 1982 style, you can tell, with the haircuts, the clothes, and the cars, right? All 1982 style, standing outside, side of a road. They're all standing outside of their cars, and they're all looking off into the distance. And so me, remembering what Mark had said, I was looking at the sky because he said it was off in the distance. It was hard to judge the size, but it's off in the distance and the polaroid, and so I'm looking to clear blue sky. It's a perfect photograph, by the way. Perfect. And I'm looking in the sky, and I don't see anything. And at first I was disappointed because I was thinking that this was going to be some tiny speck off in the distance, right? So I'm looking, and the blue sky is there, and I go from left to right. I blow this thing up really loud. I'm like, man, really? So I'm trying to look. I'm looking left, looking right, looking at him, and I don't see anything. There was nothing obvious there. I mean, I blew it up big, too, by the way. There's nothing. And I was bummed, man. Bummed. And remember what Mark said last night, too, as well. He said that it was off in the distance. So that's where I'm looking. And then I saw it. It's right there. It's right there. It wasn't in the sky. It was just off of the ground. And Mark had said that, too, last night, that it was struggling and it was close to the ground. And, but there, it's right there. It's not in the sky. It's right off of the ground. There might be a little bit of sky in between it, but it's there. It's not in the sky. It's like on the ground, right in front of this crowd. And it's huge. It's bleeping huge. Right there, right in front of them. And it's exactly what is in his illustration. The angle, the way that his illustration is done here, the angle, that's exactly the position that this craft has in the photograph. And it's right there. I'm going to guess, I'm going to say this thing was probably a quarter mile away. Now, you know how big a Polaroid is, right? So this thing, the crowd is in the foreground in the Polaroid, and then you see the mountains off in the distance with the blue sky on top, perfectly centered framed Polaroid. And then this object is smack dab in the center of the photograph, and it's probably 3/8 of an inch across on a Polaroid. It's big. and it's off in the distance, and it's that shape, and it's black. More on that in just a second. But it is the perfect UFO photograph. I mean, this is a game changer. The wings, the nose pointed to the ground, everything that you see here is in this picture. I wish I could share it with you and the rest of the world, but I can't. I can only describe to you what I saw, and it is amazing. Absolutely stunning. Like I said at the beginning, it's all about the evidence. It's all about the proof. And you have a story like this from 1982, and it just goes away because there's nothing there. We just have the eyewitness testimony. Here, there is a Polaroid. There is a photograph, and it's exactly what is in this illustration. Everything is there as he shows. The wings, the domes, and the domes, by the way, okay. Let me be very clear here. Now that I've set up this Polaroid, I want you to picture the 1982 cars parked at the side of the road. There's probably a dozen people in the photograph, and they're all looking at this craft, and it's there. Its nose is pointed to the ground. The craft is black. It's black. The wings, how it's symmetrical, and is exactly as you see it here in this illustration. But this is what is different. The craft is black. But those three domes that you see here in the picture, the actual craft, those are gold. They're gold. And they're big. 300 to 600 feet across? Yes, quite possibly. Judging from this photograph, and I'm not a total expert, but I know when something is big and off in the distance and so forth, the way that the photograph is done, just like anything else that would be like this, the craft is moving. You can tell it's not perfectly in focus, but it's in focus enough. By the way. It's a little blurry because it's moving. Everybody else, everything is perfectly focused in the photograph. The photograph is genuine. So now you're looking at this, and the gold domes stand out. And as you look at this, you can tell, you can see the origami type thing that is going on that I keep describing as origami. You can see that, and you can see. It is symmetrical. It is like a Y, like it is here with the nose and then the two wings or whatever, the forks that are going off. Totally symmetrical. You can see that the back wing is at a different angle to the front wing, but you can tell that the one that's in the foreground, you can tell that they are identical. You can tell that it is symmetrical. You can tell that that is the nose of the craft. You can see the little bird beak triangle pyramid shape that's in the front that's pointing to the ground. All of that is in the photograph. All of it is there. I don't know what to make of this. I don't. Mark seems to think, and I have no reason to dispute this or question this, that this was an experimental craft. Okay, great. It is the craziest thing you could ever imagine. I don't know what these witnesses said after this. I went and did enough searches on the net. I tried to I wanted to see if this photograph was leaked. It's not out there. This photograph is not on the net. I searched for it all day today. It's quite simply not out there. So they've kept this down low. They've managed to keep this entire thing private. So where are the witnesses today? Were they told to stay quiet? I don't know. There are enough there on the side of the road and what is going on off in the distance that this was an extraordinary event for everybody. Even if it was just, let's take this craft out of the picture, right? It's not this craft. It's something else. It's a balloon. It's a civilian thing. It's a civilian aircraft, or it's a military helicopter that's crashing or struggling. whatever it is off in the distance, it's Evel Knievel jumping something. It's just some event. You would remember what was going on, and it was photographed, and you have witnessed something. Where are those witnesses? This is a bit heavier. This is some kind of craft, probably experimental, probably ours, probably with some kind of alien technology. All of those things are coming into play. I don't think that anybody on the side of the road has ever seen anything like this ever, and they are witnessing it. Where are they today? It's 1982, so now we're reaching to 35 years ago. And you look in the picture, there is a wide range of ages here. But 35 years ago, if somebody's 35 in this picture, they're 70 years old today. Are they even still with us? Okay, 1982 sounds like yesterday, and it sounds, modern and everything. And it is. But where are these witnesses now? Why isn't this one of the big events? Well, I'm going to get to the bottom of it along with Mark. And I want to get this picture published. And I want to get some of these witnesses to come forward. It's one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what it is. But I can assure you that after seeing the photograph myself, that this illustration of Mark's is exactly what those people saw that day in California, in Cedarville, in 1982. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and I just noticed that. I hope that we're okay here. All right. Boom. Let's get out of here. When I come back, Whitley Strieber, the one and only. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. At JChurchRadio. You can follow Whitley at Whitley Strieber on Twitter. Email is Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. Whitley's website, unknowncountry.com. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with Whitley. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms, that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fate or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Our guest tonight is Whitley Strieber. You can follow Whitley at Whitley Strieber on Twitter. Stop by, say hello. Tomorrow night is another Fader night. Open lines all night long. John Rappaport's going to be here with his No More Fake Newsroom Live. Phone number is 323-825-5045. Very excited to have Whitley back with us on the show. He is the author of the Communion series of books and many novels ranging from the Wolfen and the Hunger to the Greys, and his exciting new Alien Hunter series. Communion, the Wolfen, the Hunger, and Superstorm have all been made into movies. Superstorm as The Day After Tomorrow. Whitley is a Texan. And The Secret School has been listed by the Texas Monthly among the top 10 books written by Texans. Alien Hunter has been made into a TV series by the SyFy Channel. It is called Hunters, and The Greys is being made into a film as well. Supernatural, A New Vision of the Unexplained is Whitley's latest book, and in this book, written with Professor Jeffrey Kripal, redefines the meaning of the close encounter and the UFO phenomena and has been called the most important book on the paranormal in 40 years by author Gary Jansen. Tonight, we're going to cover Whitley's journal. And I was speaking to Whitley about this right before the show. And I go to Unknown Country all the time. It's one of the great websites out there, and it's been there for such a long time. But I go to Whitley's journal, and I'm always looking for Whitley's latest insights, and it's always good. So we're going to talk about that tonight and where that comes from. And also, is there more to the communion events that he has not spoken about? And are we going to see if we can maybe get Whitley to share some of his private experiences that he has never before shared? So that's my attempt. That's my job tonight. Whitley, welcome back to Fade to Black. How are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's always good to hear your voice. And I kind of want to start here, though, Whitley. The last time that you and I were together, we were in line for lunch at Contact in the Desert. And I can't believe it, but that's almost a year ago. What have you been up to in the last year?
Well, that's a fairly big question. We only have 15 or 20 hours, so I can't answer it in that time.
Right.
Mostly, I am very deeply engaged in I don't know what it is. Something has come into my life. It came in about in the October after Annie died, which would now be about 18 months ago.
Right.
And began wanting me to increase the amount of time I meditate. And now I meditate at 11 o'clock at night, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and at 6:30 in the morning, or 7, depending on when I wake up. And the 3 o'clock meditation apparently is really important because they will wake me up, even forcibly, to do that every night.
7 days. 7 days.
So it doesn't have weekends.
Right.
And at first I thought, this is going to kill me because I'm not getting enough sleep, but that's not true. It's actually whatever is happening is extremely healthy. I'm very far from not getting enough sleep. I'm fine.
Right.
I still have a rich dream life. I keep a dream book. And these awakenings are ranging from, there's all kinds of different ways. One night I could not do it. I simply couldn't do it. I woke up, or half woke up. I could not make my body get out of the bed. And just at dawn, it's about 6:30 in the morning, I heard a voice, a sort of sad voice from the living room saying, "Person leaving." And they call me Person. I don't think it occurred. Maybe it hasn't occurred to them yet. We have names.
Right.
In any case, I felt terrible. I really did. And I changed my schedule around in such a way that so far since that time, that happened before Christmas, I haven't missed a night. And you get to the point where you think everything comes up like, oh, I've already done it. Or I just have to pass tonight. It's too hard. All of that. But I do not pass. I keep going. And to be honest, I really don't know why, except it seems to have something to do with my wife and contact with her.
Right.
And this goes back to right after she died, I believe it was the September after she died, I went to a conference held by William Henry in Nashville. And I was there, and there was a reception or something going on. It wasn't formal at that point. And a lady walked up to me and said, "Whitley, I have something very strange. I don't know. Nothing like this has ever happened to me before, and I don't know what to say." And I said, "Well, you realize that the only thing that's going to disappoint you is you can't surprise me." And so she said, "Well, I don't want to embarrass myself." I said, "You can't. Look who you're talking to.
Right.
How could you embarrass yourself? It's not possible."
Right.
She said, "Okay, look, this just happened. I heard Anne's voice in my ear." And then she paused and she said, "Do you have a special chair of any kind?" And, of course I do. I have a place where I meditate and have been for years. I started meditating seriously in 1970. So everywhere I go, there's always a place. There's a place in this apartment. So I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "Because I had heard Anne's voice say, 'Tell Whitley I can see him when he's in the chair.'" And I do a very special form of meditation that I learned in the Gurdjieff Foundation many years ago in New York, which is not a conventional meditation at all. It is a directing of the attention to physical sensation, to the sensing of the body. And I can say from long experience with it, it's something that takes a lot of persistence. You're just starting out when you've been doing it for 10 years. But over time, it is the most energetic thing you can do, I think. So I immediately realized what it was that Annie could see that meditation. And then later I found that it was why the visitors had come to me in the first place, because I'd been doing it for years. I'd been doing it for 15 years when they showed up. And I asked one of them at one time when I was having exchanges with them, it's been a long time ago, "Why did you come here?" And the answer was interesting. It was, "We saw a glow." And at the time I thought it was the glow of cities or, whatever. They were aliens. This is not about someone from another planet who's coming here to peek at us. This is about the deepest and most profound experience of reality that mankind has ever had. Now I understand what they saw.
What did they say?
They saw me.
Right.
They saw me meditating. They saw the glow
right.
of that simple meditation. And Anne can see it too. And when we do that, we literally are between the worlds. We are sitting on the bridge between the worlds. So that's what I've been doing lately.
Well, you know, you're very smart. And the other thing that goes with that is you have received hundreds of thousands of letters and correspondence, and people come up to you, like this lady in Nashville with William Henry, and they share their experiences with you. So you are acclimated to that, right? More so than just about anybody that I know. So when you were listening to her share her experience with you, you're also listening with a certain amount of a BS meter, right? You know when somebody's speaking the truth. What did she say to you that made you realize it was your chair, it was your experience, and this was reality?
Well, that's a very interesting and complex question, actually. That BS meter is part of me.
Right.
And without being able to say precisely why, I always know. I always know immediately. Anne did too. Anne was even better at it than I am.
Right.
And when somebody is making something up, or that's easy to tell. But it's when people think they're telling saying something real and they're not. That's what's hard.
Right.
But you get a feeling for people. Human beings are incredibly beautiful. And if they aren't as beautiful as they should be, then something's not right. You know, another thing that Anne said recently was that love is not the same as the other emotions. Love is the basis of reality. And when you understand that, and somebody comes to you with a motive that is not got to do with just that simple, ordinary love by which we all live, you know it right away.
Right.
And this lady was just a nice person. She was just a nice person who was there, and it had something strange happen to her. And it resonated with me. And the minute I heard her say it, I immediately made all of the connections. I understood instantly what it was about. And when I went home, I started meditating more. And it was about 2 weeks later that suddenly I found myself feeling an electric shock in one of my toes at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I leaped up out of bed. I thought something was wrong with the bed. And then I thought, no, I've felt this kind of thing before. I can't see them, but they're here, and they have waked me up for a reason. And there's only one thing they've ever been interested in me doing, and that's this meditation. And so I went in and started meditating, and that's when it started.
Take me through the meditation ritual, because you can't do this in bed, right? At
no,
3 a.m.
You need to have your spine, in my opinion, perpendicular to the planet. It does not seem to work lying down, or at least not as well. Not for me in any case. So I don't want to say, somebody who lies in bed is in a hospital or something and can't be anywhere else, that you can't do it.
Right.
Because I think everybody probably can. But in my case, it works best when I am in a sitting position. I can't sit cross-legged on the floor anymore because I ruined my knee. I had to pick Annie up a lot when she was paralyzed, and I had to say goodbye to the cartilage in my left knee in order to do that. But I didn't mind. I had my girl.
Right.
Anyway, the meditation is, it's not even a meditation. It's more a practice. And what you do is, we do not control our attention. The world around us controls our attention. The TV yammering at us, the friends calling, the blinds needing to be closed, food needing to be cooked, getting hungry, having desires, all of this physical stuff. That's where our attention is and where it goes all the time. We can do with our attention. It's actually a tool. Our tool belongs to us. And what you do is you take your tool of your attention and you place it on your body. And you will find that when you do that, you feel the body's sensation in a different way. It's very subtle. But you can say, I place my attention on my left foot, and you can really concentrate and feel that foot and feel the presence. It's presence there. You don't have to go into any imagination, but you'll know instinctively that having that foot on the ground is important because you're related to this planet. And this planet is not asleep. This planet is not even unconscious. This planet knows you are there when you do this. And you go up your leg and then your other leg, hands and arms, methodically going over your whole body, up your spine, to your head and face, and down into your chest, then down into the parts of yourself inside, and the solar plexus or below the solar plexus. And you have no sensation in there. There's no nerve endings that work that way inside the body. But what you do have is the emotions. And your emotions, not emotions, your imagination, excuse me. Your imagination can take you in there, and you can imagine yourself, your sensation in there. And that's just as good. Then you let it spread out over your whole body, and you feel your whole body. And when I first started doing this in 1970, first off, I felt numb. I didn't feel anything. I was just talking to myself. Then after a while, I began to have sensation, and I could take my attention out of my thoughts and leave it in sensation for a few seconds at a time. And it would always go back to the thoughts. The thoughts, hey, I'm feeling my sensations. That thought would come, or, well, wait a minute, did I turn off the light in the basement? And, anything. Your mind never stops. And that process of going back and forth, of getting lost in your mind and then remembering and going back to the anchor of sensation in the body, placing your attention back there, that's very energetic. That's the real thing, the work. If you didn't have the mind pulling you back, you couldn't do it.
Right. It's
essential to fail. That's how you succeed in this. And once you get that, then it's okay. You think, oh, I went back to my mind. Good, now I've remembered to go back to my body. And you get the energy of that effort. Now, after these years, what was hard at first is just the most sensually beautiful thing in the world, because you go into the physical and through the physical into the non-physical, and it turns out that you don't just feel your body, you feel your soul, and you have one, and you think to yourself, we talk about all getting cars and the media and the science community, scientific community, intellectuals are all telling us there is no soul, you're just a body. But when you feel your soul, you realize something different, that's what it's all about. Everything else is just an incident. Your soul, the strengthening of your soul, that's what matters. And it feels so good.
I'm going there right now, Whitley. You got me there. You got me there. And there's something else that is going on, and you just mentioned the science. when the string theorist, the interdimensionality of our universe and our world, and string theory and 10 dimensions, and that math now works. And the talk about this possibly being a 2D world that is activated into 3D from string theory, and it could all be a hologram. But what's interesting here is the interdimensionality of all of this, and the possibility of us being able to go left or right into another dimension is now what science is saying is quite possibly a reality. But you've been talking about this for a very, very long time, and science is now right at the edge of starting to prove this. Do you think we're close to that?
Well, there's just been a study that's been talked about in being talked about in the news. A group of scientists, I believe, in Australia, or no, in the UK, are saying that the universe could be a vast, complex hologram. And just a minute. And this is here. Let me tell you a story about this. I got an email from a listener, or from probably an unknown country reader, or a Dreamland listener, I don't know which, maybe both, about a week ago, saying that he had a dream encounter with Anne. And, not many people have these. And people aren't jumping all over themselves to lie about stuff like that. You'd be amazed how honest people are. But anyway, he had this, and he explained what it was. And in the email, he mentioned that she appeared to him in the form of a holographic image. And I thought, that's Anne all the way. What she's doing is she's telling him she is at once become all and is still herself. In other words, she's ascended to that level of clarity, I would say, in the afterlife. Then 2 days later, here comes this story saying that these scientists believe that they have proved that the universe is a hologram, and that it is essentially a holographic image being projected from a kind of core of some kind. And I thought to myself, she knew this would happen, and she was confirming it, because I know how Anne's mind worked, and still does, apparently. Like, for example, the night she passed away, I found a book lying open on our bookcase. It's a book called Physics from Fisher Information, which Anne thought was found really fascinating. She read it very carefully years and years ago. It'd been sitting on that bookcase for at least 10 years without being opened, because we'd both read it and absorbed it. And there it lay open. It lay open to a page that said, "The Big Bang must have occurred because of a single primordial quest for knowledge." And Annie would always say, when people said, well, it's God, she would say, no, that's what you don't understand. You put God outside of yourself. It's you. It's always you. And that's what you have to live with, and that's what you have to face.
That's interesting. And the Big Bang side of things is now almost in debate, where it was accepted physics, and I get that. It was an easy answer to things, but
it's very linear.
It's very linear,
and it may or may not be the whole truth. But we do know that this ideation of reality started that way, almost certainly. But whether or not that was the absolute origination of it is another question. we don't know, as I say in Supernatural, we don't know who we are, where we are, or what we are. And those three questions are not questions that can be answered directly. As soon as you get into the world of belief and you suddenly you can answer all those questions, you've lost the thread and you're missing the mark. To address those questions, it takes a lot of humility to face the fact, and it's a little bit scary to face the fact that they're unanswerable, even though they are essential.
Do you think a physicist or a true science guy or a quantum guy, if they sat and meditated and practiced and got to the point of consciousness that you have, that they would start to look at science quite differently?
Listen, I know plenty of them who do,
right,
and have. Yes is the answer.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of people in that community. One of the problems with the scientific community is that it's ruled by a clique of relentless materialists. And if you divert from that, you've got problems. The whole quantum physical community has problems. I was that type of problem. I was reading the New York Review of Books the other week, and I found in it an article about the problem with quantum theory. Now, I read the article, and it was really very hard to understand exactly what the problem was. What was the guy getting at? And I finally figured it out. It was the old quantum perception problem that he did not like. That is that that everything is indeterminate and in superposition. In other words, every electron is in more than one place at the same time. You can't tell exactly where it is until it is addressed by consciousness, whereupon it fixes and becomes positional,
right,
and becomes an entity. The problem he was having was there must be something other than consciousness causing this, because consciousness cannot be the basis of reality. Problem is, it is.
That's right.
And, many quantum physicists are quite comfortable with that idea without addressing it directly, because it goes against the religion of scientism, which says that there could be no need for consciousness in a completely material universe. That just doesn't happen to be the case. Without consciousness, there would be no universe. It wouldn't exist.
Let's take a break right here, Whitley. Amazing conversation. Whitley Strieber is our guest tonight, of course, author of the Communion series. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow Whitley at Whitley Strieber on Twitter. Very simple. And, of course, his website is unknowncountry.com. Also, Strieber.com. Links are over at Jimmy Church Radio. We'll be right back. More with Whitley right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
And you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Sobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me right now on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. Follow Whitley, at Whitley Strieber. Very simple. UnknownCountry.com is the website. All the links for Whitley are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Whitley, you're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo this February 10th through the 13th. Excited. I can't wait to see your presentation. What are you going to be speaking about this year?
Well, I'm going to be speaking about about my life's things that have happened in my life, because I'm going to go way back to the beginning and then come all the way forward to the present, because a lot has happened in the past. Since Annie died, and my life has changed completely. My whole experience of reality has changed. And when she was alive, we were often talked about building a bridge between the worlds, between the one of us that died first and the one that was left behind. I turned out to be the one left behind, and it's logical because I was always the communicator and she was the one that figured things out.
Right.
And so now she's on the other side figuring things out, and I'm yelling and screaming about what she's telling me is happening in her version and her understanding of the real world. So it's working very well right now.
Well, if anybody,
just what we hoped, and I'm going to be talking about that.
Well, if anybody was going to get it done, it'd be her for sure, right?
Oh yeah. She was a teacher in her core of her being. She was the deepest teacher I ever knew. Annie didn't sit you down and say, now this is the way it is and that's the way it is. She taught by example and by life experience. I'll give you an example. She was very compassionate, but she understood people extremely well. To give you an example, we have a friend he's pretty famous and pretty full of himself. And he's a lovely man, don't get me wrong. He's been a friend for years. And we were with him. And when we were with him a lot, and sometimes when we were with him, and he had like a PA or something around, who was usually the son of some other famous person that he kind of wanted to impress. Anne would always tell corny jokes and say things that made her sound really sort of silly and unsophisticated. The kind of things that he would not want anyone to think that a person he considered a friend would ever say. They embarrassed him terribly. It was hilarious. I mean, the poor guy she ossified him with embarrassment sometimes. But you see what she was doing. It was very purposeful. It was giving him a chance to see his ego.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't afraid to do that. She wasn't afraid to step out there, and she'd do anything to further a person's journey toward greater consciousness. She didn't care what happened to her or what they thought of her or anything. Anne didn't care. Yet I was very lucky to have her, because part of the huge part of my own spiritual growth was because I was with her. And I would get the benefit of this. And it was just delivered with complete innocence. She was a master, but I'll tell you something I learned about masters from being with Anne.
Well, hold on, Whitley. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Did he benefit? Did he?
Oh, yes.
Did he ever catch on?
He caught on. He's caught on now very much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And but did he change?
He's a much kinder man.
Right. Okay.
And he looks much more to people's humility and their striving and their needs than to their greatness now. He doesn't want to sit beside the famous man so much anymore as he wants to find out what the people around him really need.
How cool is that? Right?
It is pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't get much cooler. Okay, back to your thought. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Well, so where we are now, the two of us, is we're going to do what we can to show how this bridge between the worlds works, because Annie found out, or figured out, I should say, early on, that the visitors, she walked out of her office one day and said, Whitley, this is after reading all those letters, she said, this has something to do with what we call death. And that completely revised my whole understanding of the experience. It meant that I would never again be invited to MUFON, because all of a sudden, aliens coming out of little silver spaceships and screwing around the way they thought had some other kind of much more enigmatic meaning.
Right.
And so that was that, but I didn't care. I'm going to go on down this whatever path I'm sent down by this extraordinary experience in life that I'm having. I don't care what people think, and I don't care what their theories are. I'm just going to tell what I see.
Well, you also, the point needs to be made here was, when all of this started, you shared the experience as you knew it, but it evolved, and you understand more today than what, the way that
tremendously more.
Right.
I was, we were lost in the woods. Boy, I mean, when it first happened, we did not know what was going on. Neither one of us. She was, a lot of women would have said, okay, I am done.
I'm out of here.
Getting out of this marriage.
Right.
You're spectacularly crazy. I have a child here. You will not be near that child again.
Fair enough. Right.
Anne said instead, she said, when finally I tried to get her to divorce me, and because I thought I was losing my mind. And in those days in New York State, if I had become helplessly psychotic, it would have been years before she would be allowed to divorce me. In other words, she couldn't just ditch me if that happened. And the thing was so seamless when it happened. I was in it. And I thought to myself, this was a true psychotic break. I had no reference whatsoever to reality. And if it happens again and I can't get out of it, she'll starve. She won't be able to find another husband for years. So I started trying to ditch her, to get her to ditch me, and have fought with her and told her to get out of the marriage and all this stuff.
Didn't work.
Finally, it didn't even come close to working. She was hunkered down in her marriage. She wasn't going anywhere. And thank God. And I didn't want her to either, I have to tell you. But so when I finally told her what happened, she said, "So you got taken aboard a flying saucer by little men?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Thank God." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, you're obviously not going crazy." And I said, "Well, why do you think that?" She said, "Because it happened. You're talking about something that happened. Don't you get it? You're talking about something that happened to you. It didn't happen in your head. It happened. You should have told me right away. I would have told you that immediately. As soon as you described it, Whitley, I could tell it happened." I said, "Well, it can't happen." She said, "Look up at the sky. What do you see?"
Right.
I said, "A lot of stars." She said, "So it can happen." However, I think if you asked her today whether or not it had to do with aliens, she might say something like, "We are much more than we think." Because when she came out of that office and said, "This has something to do with what we call death," she was taking the whole thing to a new level. And she was saying, it's not scientists from another planet coming to whomp one up you and figure out what happens to you when they take your DNA and semen and whatever else and eggs. This is something about the bridge between the worlds and a new kind of human life. That's what it's really about. And we built from that. And incredible things started to happen at that cabin in upstate New York. I'll give you an example. It got to the point whenever people began to see their dead in the afternoon or the early evening at the cabin, we knew the supposed aliens would show up later that night. Always happened that way.
Wow.
Our secretary, Laurie Barnes, came in from the walk, taking a walk one afternoon, and sort of wide, pie-eyed, and said, "I just saw my brother on the road." And Ann said she didn't know anything about her much, and she said, "Well, did you ask him any?" She said, No, you don't understand. My brother disappeared 20 years ago. The FBI gave him up as dead, finally, after 7 years of investigating the case. And I saw him standing there on the road, and I said to him, "Oh, my God, where did you come from?" And he said what the dead almost always will say: "I'm okay. I want you to know I'm all right." And she said, "Well, come down to the house." Whereupon he smiled gently at her, drifted back through the woods, and then just disappeared before her eyes. And that night, one of the little gray creatures, those little tiny, they're much smaller than people always seem to think of them as big. They're little bitty things, and came into the cabin. We had a low light camera on and everything, trying to catch an image of him.
Was Laurie there that evening?
Laurie was there, and Raven Dana, who has also spoken out. I mean, she's publicly a witness, so I can mention her name also.
Right.
Was there, and in the middle of the night, Raven was in one bedroom, and this figure comes in through the window, and she thought it was a raccoon first. Then she realizes, oh my God, those aren't the eyes of a raccoon. It's one of these things. And it was standing beside the bed. And she put her hand out and it laid its hand in her hand, and there was this wonderful kind of energy between them, which is, if you ever get to feel that, consider yourself lucky. It's really extraordinary. And it asked her, either physically or in her head, wasn't ever sure which, what it could do for her.
Really?
And she said, you could walk down that hall. And the reason was the low-light camera was trained on that hall. And then it just disappeared. A few minutes later, it went into the next bedroom and poked Laurie in the shoulder the same way they used to poke me in the shoulder when I was younger and easier to wake up. Now they just try to electrocute me. It's harder to wake me up now. I'm too old. But anyway, and engaged also with Laurie. And there was so much going on in that cabin that night. Downstairs, in the basement, upstairs, it was just extraordinary. And it was one of a number of such instances. And always the dead come in those situations when the visitors come. And when Annie is engaging with me, very often the context is with them. Because whatever they are, they've already crossed the bridge between the worlds.
Or are they stuck between?
Oh, they're not stuck anywhere.
Right.
They have profound mastery. They're not stuck. They're not stuck. They're not evil reptilians. They're not trying to steal from people. They are not demons. The hardest thing to face in this world is something that is truly good, because this is a fallen world. And the good often looks very, very dangerous to us. You have to get to the point where, as I have been taught, to embrace the idea of the 3 pillars of the soul: love, compassion, and humility. And we have a lot of trouble with all of those things. We always find reasons not to love. We don't understand compassion. We think compassion is giving a buck to a beggar.
Right.
And compassion is a lot deeper journey than that. It's a lot harder. I'll give you an example of real compassion. Jesus went into the temple, turned over the tables of the money changers. That was an act of compassion. Why was it an act of compassion? For the same reason that when Annie screwed around with the egotistical guy, it gave them a chance to see what they were. It gave the money changers a chance to see their greed. That's an act of compassion. Picking up a baby on a street corner that nobody wants in Aleppo or Damascus, this little fella dying and screaming his lungs out and starving. That's also an act of compassion. There's lots of different acts of compassion. Putting your hand on the forehead of a lonely old person dying in the hospital, that's an act of compassion.
Why?
Forcing somebody to face a truth about themselves. Some fancy, greedy person driving around in a Lexus.
Right.
That's also an act of compassion.
Why is it that we take the easy road? You know, how have we fallen into this complacency thing where we just constantly just choose the easy road? There's a fork in the road right in front of us all day long, right? Right and wrong. And we always take the wrong road. Is it just because we don't want to deal with extra work and the extra effort that, you know, you said it's harder? That, you know, I like that. I like that description of it. But why do we always take the easy road?
Well, straight as the gate. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It wasn't meant to be easy. And, you know, you learn a lot about souls. You do this and you get really involved in this. And we're here to build strong souls, and it's entirely up to us. You don't want to build a strong soul? Fine. You don't have to. And that means that, you know, you lived and you didn't do much with it, and then you're gone. You most of us, a lot of us, this is a very rich, in this country, is a very rich country, are having trouble with the eye of the needle. There's even people in the fundamentalist movement, in the evangelical movement, lately, who are saying that wealth is a sign of God's favor. In other words, the rich are rich because they're favored by God. Ha!
Oh, man.
Jesus warned us about the eye of the needle.
Right.
And in Jerusalem, there was a little doorway in the wall. The gates of the city were locked at night, and that little doorway you had to sidle through it. You couldn't go through it front ways. You couldn't take an animal through it, and you couldn't take a weapon through it. And you couldn't go through it if you were heavily clothed in wealthy, rich robes and things. And that's the eye of the needle. And it's why a wealthy man with his horses and his sword and his slaves and his beautiful woven robes and everything couldn't get through it. He had to give all of that stuff up to get through it. And, come and follow me. He said it. It's hard to do. It's really hard to just put down all that garbage and say, yeah, I'm going to come. I'm going. It's hard because our religions have figured out all kinds of ways for us to do that and not do it at the same time. Someone who's lived a life of greed and joins into an evangelical church, and welcome. You're favored by God because you're wealthy. Don't worry about it. You're doing fine. No, you're not. And you know it. The other thing is, we all know we are never wrong about ourselves. Every one of us, always, we know precisely where we are.
I wanted to ask you on that point. You have a picture over at Unknown Country, and again, everybody, unknowncountry.com. The links are over at Jimmy Church Radio. Just click and go. I advise everybody to do that. But you have a picture of Lori on the morning after her encounter.
Yeah.
And her eyes, her face is alive. Right?
Right.
I mean, she's glowing in this picture. It would be, for some, maybe a very traumatic experience. The picture would be the opposite, but that's not what I see here. How is she, and the same goes for Raven, by the way. She's totally glowing the next day. How did Lori change?
Well, there's a way of looking at this that is different from what we have been taught. You don't have to, when you see one of these little visitors, they're usually dirty, certainly scary, sometimes violent. They give very little indication. They don't seem like saints, but real saints just generally don't seem like saints either. And if you let yourself be, just let it be, then suddenly everything changes. It's like in that movie, Jacob's Ladder, when the main character is on the chiropractor's table, and the chiropractor says that if you stop fighting the demons, then the demons turn out to be angels. And that it's all in us. It's in us. The way the world looks and the way it appears and what it does to us is inside us. And Lori was a person who could do this. So was Raven. Anne could tell the instant she read all these letters. And I'll tell you how Lori came into our life. She was reading letters after letter. I mean, we had literally half the living room was piled up with thousands and thousands of letters. Annie was reading one after another in this middle of this big heap. And I said, Annie, you can't do that alone. She said, I know it. I'm going to get a secretary. I said, well, what are you going to call an agency? She said, no, I'll find one in here sooner or later. And a couple hours later, I heard her on the phone. And she said, okay, well, good. Well, why don't you start right now? Come on over. And I said, what's going on? And she said, I found a secretary. And she handed me this letter And I said, this isn't the letter. This woman is an actress. And she said, have you ever heard of her? I said, no. She said, then she's got to be something else, right, as well. So, and it turned out, indeed, she was not only a secretary, she lived across the street from us.
Right.
And she was a great secretary. All those letters, those two women, they typed them, they cataloged them, and everything. They're going to be collected by a university and be kept as part of the American heritage from now on. They did that, those two women, my wife and Lori.
When we come back, I want to ask you, I want to get into dreams and the fact that you write those down and keep a journal. And I want to get to that. I think it's very important. But also, when we come back, I've never discussed with you my little experience that I had in Sherman Oaks. I don't know if it was sleep paralysis or what have you, but I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Why is it always 3? I don't know. With, a little guy standing, I was living alone, standing in my room. And we had about a 15-minute stare down, a little showdown at the OK Corral where we're staring at each other. And he's blinking. I don't have much more that I can discuss or that I will reveal publicly than that. But he was definitely there, and the experience was real, and it was physical. Do you think that was a visitor, or do you think that was, something else, or was it E.T.? You hear these experiences all the time.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
There's many, many things in this universe. It's a big old place, and for us to say that we know what every entity is and what every energy means and what every manifestation of the physical is,
right,
we're really, really way off the beam if you make those decisions.
Well, I can.
The thing to do is to just let it be, and you might get it to. You can get yourself to tell you more. It's perfectly possible.
Well, I can tell you this. If he would have reached out and held my hand, Whitley, it might have ended a little bit differently. It was traumatic. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. More with Whitley right after this short break. You stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest, layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Whitley Strieber. And this portion of Fade to Black is brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. It's dark, it's complex, and smoky. Just go to River Moon Coffee, their banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Use the promo code F2BBlend for 15% off of your next order. Our guest tonight is Whitley Strieber. Website, of course, is unknowncountry.com. Whitley, you bring up dreams and their significance, and you keep a journal, right?
Yes, I do.
Every night, are you able to remember exactly what you've dreamt?
No, I'm not able to remember every night. I wish I could. I remember about probably around half of my dreams, I would say. And when I do remember a dream, I note it down. Sometimes the dreams are teaching dreams, and they're wonderful. Other times, they just seem to be kind of random dreams. Sometimes they're fairly creepy. But what's new about that? That's something about dreaming that's like that.
Right.
But I do keep the journal. Yes.
What about astral projection and out of body in the dream experience? Do you have that ability, and do you log those?
Out of body travel?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I do a fair amount of that. I'm not a person. I can't get out on my own. I did a few times. I've done it a few times in my life, but I go out. I'm taken out. Like I was at a conference a few months ago, an academic conference, and I did my 3 a.m. meditation, and then I was sleeping, and suddenly, whoa, my spine burst into flames, and I leaped out of the bed. I mean, it was like the bed caught on fire. And I thought, damn you, I did it. I did the meditation. I've done it. I'm exhausted. You can't do this to me. And I am not sitting back down in that chair. I'm going back to bed. Once is enough. I lay in the bed, and I shot out of my body like a rocket. I was briefly in the room of one of the other conferences. You understand, this is an academic conference. This is a high-level academic conference. And I glimpsed one of the other ones, and he was awake. The other one, first one I was in, was asleep. Then I shot up into the air, and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I went down again. I was beautiful. I went way, way up, and there was this thrilling, I love this when this happens to me, thrilling feeling of being way up in the air. It's just indescribable. Other travelers who are listening to this show, probably some people listen to this kind of show will be travelers, know what I'm talking about. And then I started angling down, and I angled down into past the light line into the light of the coming morning. And in other words, I was crossing the country in a breakneck speed, and I ended up on what was clearly a college campus. And I walked into a door in a dormitory, and I could see these things on the walls that I call energy sinks. They're very strange, sort of beetle-shaped things. I think they might be living creatures. I'm not even sure, but they absorb like negative energy as their kind of food, and I see them a lot when I'm traveling like this. I went down the hall, and I went into a bedroom, and I knew now I was out of my body, and I was trying to get reference points, to figure out where I was so that maybe I could later on do like Bob Monroe used to do and figure out where I had been and so forth.
Sure.
So I saw this dulcimer leaning against a wall, and it looked sort of half finished, like someone who was in a music class might be building it. Then I went out, and I went up, and I saw a roof with a cupola. I went back out of the dorm, And I'm thinking, I'm real far from my body, and this is making me a little nervous. And so I went up in the air, and I saw over the roofs of the campus, I saw this cupola, and then I went up and up, and the next thing I knew, I was back in my body. I was worrying about, where is my body? Where am I? I'm in. It's light here, and it's dark in California, so I must be way across the country. I must be in the Northeast. And so then there I was back in my body. I told this story to the academics involved, many of whom were neurologists and people who would be interested in somebody having an experience like this. Incredibly, two of them knew precisely where I had been, because I had been to their campus.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
To their campus. And of course, it was mind-bending. It was wonderful, because here we were at this conference exploring the level of reality that these experiences, including the close encounter experience and so forth, the level of reality that were there, that they represent. And this happens. What a great experience. What a blessing. Do you see the grace of that?
I do.
That somebody somewhere gave us all the chance to look at this in a new way. Wow. I mean, they didn't say, oh, now you have to believe Whitley really went there and so forth and so on.
Right.
But they opened a door to a question, a completely new kind of question for everyone in that conference.
Were they okay with it? Were they
yeah.
cool?
Oh, sure. I mean, these are, you'd be, I don't go to conferences with stuck people. They're neurosurgeons and neurologists and other academics of that sort. But these are people who are willing to listen and willing to open their minds. And so, they were fine.
Now, and when you're talking to a group like that, I know that they sat around and contemplated about what just happened. What was their opinion of the science side of your experience? Because also, when you were in one of the other speakers' rooms, what did you see at that moment?
One of them saw me. The other one was asleep and didn't.
Right. And did you share it? Well, you had to know that they saw you because you discussed it.
Yeah, he shared it. He shared it with everyone.
Right. And so how were they, because that's what they do. They're scientists. They're going to talk about this. Did they have any idea about what was causing this? Did they have a scientific opinion?
Oh, sure. A lot of ideas. But the one idea that they didn't have was that I had actually gotten out of my body, except for the people who were from that campus and the guy who had seen me. And, what could they say? That obviously it had happened. I was kicked out of my body and sent around to create this question.
I know that dulcimer was key to the story, wasn't it?
I don't know. I know that so far I don't know yet. I'm going up to the campus soon, and I will find out more about the dulcimer.
Yeah, take a picture, will you?
It'd be very interesting if I could find that there was such a music class and going on and so forth. But it was just a dulcimer leaning against a wall in a dorm room. That's all it was.
And there's a reason for everything. There's an absolute reason for everything.
Yeah.
Now,
and there's someone trying to open our minds, because we're coming to a climax on planet Earth. This, you hear these people saying there's no such thing as global warming, blah, blah, blah. And this planet is coming to a climax. You can see it in the statistics of, in the population statistics, this gigantic overgrowth of population of human beings on this planet will be balanced out. The planet's going to balance itself. It will do it. It's not not our fault. We could plan better than we have, and we might be able to stave it off to a degree if we wish to, but we don't. Otherwise, we would have. And we're choosing not to do that. So that's our choice. In any case, it's going to happen. And this is why an attempt is being made to build a bridge between the levels of reality so that when this chaos strikes, we will be able to face the inevitable in good order and not in terror of death, but in acceptance of the situation that's developing.
Mother Earth will regurgitate, right?
Yeah,
it's
Mother Earth. We're here after 5 billion years of Earth's life, and it's not an accident, and we're not worthless. We are precious. This is something that has taken all that time to create. And when they say, well, it's just inevitable, it's evolution, it was all basically automatic. No, not at all. Not at all. And what happens here next is not the death of this species, but its birth. That's what all the strange little visitors and so forth here are. They're midwives to the soul.
When did you start to figure that out? And before you answer that, there's another part to this question. With all of the experiences in New York, would you have handled it differently looking back now? Was there something that you would have changed in the way that you dealt with it yourself personally, and of course Anne as well?
Yeah, I would have. Anne wouldn't have changed a thing with the way she dealt with it, because I think she did a really good job of that, and so did she when I asked her, and she was right. She did. And still is doing, for that matter, because she's still very engaged in this. I think that I would have done the book a little differently, because the book is actually a book of questions. But as one of my friends, Dr. John Gliedman, said at the time, he said, Whitley, this amounts to an advocacy for alien contact because it's so vivid. Even though the questions are there, they're going to be ignored. And people are going to assume it's a book about alien contact, and that's exactly what happened. Another thing I would have done is I was very embarrassed and reticent. I'm a very private person, and I was raped, and I should have just said that instead of using the rectal probe phrase, because that made me a national laughing and an international laughing stock when South Park came out with its pilot. I think it was South Park with its pilot.
Yes.
Yeah, and it ruined. It hurt terribly. Hurt me emotionally, because when you're raped and laughed at, that's hard. But when you're raped and laughed at publicly by millions of people, and you become like the rectal probe man, that's really difficult. And to listen to those two guys on the television in that interview they did saying, we were careful to be sure that we had done it in such a way that we wouldn't have to pay him and he couldn't sue us. That was mean.
Right.
And it made me think to myself, I was trying to protect my dignity, and by doing that, I lost it. I would do that differently.
The other consequences of that, and with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the problem is, sure, okay, they made fun of it, their audience laughed at it, but anybody else that has an experience like that is not going to talk about it now. Is not going to come forward.
Well, they did set things back. Mm-hmm. They did damage, serious damage. And yeah, you're right. People don't talk about it. And when people ask me whether or not they should talk about it, I have to tell them honestly, I would be very careful even to tell your friends and family, because things happen. You're vulnerable when you talk about this. And you're vulnerable because the government says it's not happening. Science says it's not happening. And, the media is basically still in rectal probe country.
Right.
So, it's a dangerous thing to talk about. And that means we don't get to learn. We don't get, our best minds never look at it. A science fiction writer, Connie Willis, on Salon, I believe, a little while back, was saying, it mentioned Whitley Strieber, who believes his own fiction. How ignorant is that? I mean, it totally uninformed statement. But that's where, if we are even addressed by most of the intellectual and scientific community, that's the level at which we are addressed. And yet this extraordinary, beautiful, dangerous, terrifying thing on some level is real. And they pretend it isn't.
You, one of the things that you talk about in communion is, I don't want to talk about communion specifically, but you talk about the lights outside of the window. And at Contact in the Desert last year, you were there, and there was a mass sighting. I was part of it, and what I witnessed, and I had no problem going public with it. I don't care. I saw what I saw, and there was thousands of people that saw it too. Was this extraordinary light, this chrome ball thing that took 5 minutes to go up into the stars and then stopped and then shot left and took off into the stars. Now, I saw this. I can't explain it. I don't know if it was us or them or anything. I don't know, right? I only saw what I saw, and I was a witness to that. But in your experience, not only with the lights that were outside of the cabin, but with your experiences with the visitors over the years, and you hear about an experience like that at Contact, does that surprise you? And what is it that you think that we saw? We didn't see any conventional craft. We saw this thing that took off from Earth and shot up into the stars. It was extraordinary. What do you think it was?
That's a good question. I think it transmitted a lot of energy to you and to all the people who saw it. I don't know what that may mean. I doubt if it was a little spaceship with aliens sitting inside of it.
Right.
I think it probably had something to do with our planet and this universe, and it was saying something. And the message is clear, and the message is in what it did. It made every single one of you look up and think to yourself, what is that?
Exactly.
Just broaden that question. Keep broadening that question, and you will find that's why it was there.
You know, it was one of those experiences, Whitley, where I just went, okay, all right, that was a game changer. There's something going on. But what is most interesting to me about that is 20 miles away, as you know, is 29 Palms, right? One of the major military installations in this country. And bristling with radar and sensitive detection equipment. That's what they do, right? They had to have known about what was going on just 20 miles up the road, and no response from them. There was nothing going, but they know that this happened that night. There was other lights too as well, but they know. And that's
why do you think they know it happened?
Well,
unless they did it, which could be.
Well, that could be too. That has been something that has been discussed, but it's in their backyard. Are they that in that? That's the question.
I know a lot about the movements of these things and these that the visitors have, and if they are seen on radar or seen by anybody at all, that's because that was wanted. They did it. You didn't just happen to see them. They were there for a reason, and they drew you, all of you, to that seeing. And if they wanted to show up on radar at that air base or whatever it is, they did, or they didn't. It's entirely and completely in their control. It's like disclosure. People are saying, oh, the government's got to disclose something. And maybe if that ever happens, it will appear to have come from the government. But it will never happen unless the visitors want it to. Nothing like that, nothing to do with them happens but unless they control it. Absolutely. From beginning to end, from the get-go.
I go back and there was a Canadian video crew there. Happened to be right there, multiple cameras on this cliff. There was hundreds of people there. Happened to be videotaping. Thank goodness, right? And I can only imagine what that was going through their minds. But I go and I look at that video of this thing, and as I watch the video, the same thing goes through my mind as I watch the video as it did that night, which is, holy crap, what is that? Somebody just explain that to me. I need some help here, because that shouldn't be. That is not what we see every day, but yet it was there.
Don't you look at it in an entirely different way?
Help me.
Why don't you look at it from your standpoint? Why do I react like this? What is my question? What question do I bring to this? Because there's a communication going on. And the fact that you're not able to tell what this is means only one thing. It means it's asking you to ask questions. And you can't ask it questions because it's not there anymore. So ask the questions of yourself. And I'll tell you another thing. There's plenty of conscious energy in this universe on all kinds of different levels. And you can ask questions. When I meditate, I often will ask to give me what I need the most and the wisdom to see it. I don't ask for this, for a new Lexus or a pack of Luckies or whatever the hell. I just ask for that. Give me what I need the most and the wisdom to see it. Because it's quite often true that in a case like this, you got something you might have really needed, but didn't get the wisdom to see it. You're sort of left with a kind of oh gosh level. But you can sit and you can meditate, and you can do the sensing exercise, and you can get yourself quiet, and until you feel like to a degree there's a little bit of a flickering glow going on there. And that's all we ever manage. There's no neon signs among human souls. We're all flickering, so don't worry about it if you just flicker. So do I, and so do we all.
Right.
In any case, once you're there, you say, give me what I need the most and the wisdom to see it, or tell me what I can learn from this. And some way or another, in your dreams or in your mind or in the life you live, there will come help in the form of directions, and not final answers, but ways of turning within yourself that open up new doors.
How can we equip ourselves for that type of intense information or learning? I mean, it's certainly not there for everybody, and it could be overwhelming. How do we prepare ourselves for those answers that we're asking for? Because it may not be what we want to know, too.
The three pillars of the soul are love, compassion, and the third one is humility. And that's the one that works in this case.
Right.
You have to be humble before all of this universe, because after all, it's really, really big and really, really old. And you are a really, really little piece of it. And when you get to that, suddenly you think it's, well, wait a minute, it's okay if I don't know. And it's okay if I can't understand. All I have to do is the old Hebrew saying, everything comes to he who waits well. Waiting well is a conscious act of preparation, continuous preparation. You're always ready. You're open, you're ready. And you have to take with you and to find in this always your sense of humor. The great 13th century theologian Meister Eckhart used to say, God laughs and plays. And all of this stuff has got laughter and play in it. It has mysteries and it has danger, but it also has a lighter level. And when you get to that lighter level, that's when you begin to come to the kind of truly human questions that revolve around the wonderful irony of our helplessness and our confusion. And when you're playing in that particular space, you're going to be doing good. I mean, Jimmy, because this is where you need to be. I'm talking about you personally, and probably maybe a lot of your listeners, or they wouldn't be listening to your show.
Right.
That's a good place to be. Take it with a grain of salt and have fun with it.
Well, I got to tell you, Rita and I, and you know Rita, she's very pragmatic. The rest of the
Rita is, yeah.
I was stunned. Yeah, I felt I really was in the need of a cold shot of vodka. That's where it was.
Yeah, you can't get a cold shot of vodka at that conference, I can assure you, unless you brought it yourself.
And
it's a miracle if it's still cold after a day in that heat.
Let's take a break right here. More with Whitley right after this short break. Whitley Strieber, unknowncountry.com. Do follow Whitley on Twitter, by the way. Whitley Strieber, at Whitley Strieber on Twitter. You can follow me at JChurch Radio. More with Whitley right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
You've probably heard about all the great benefits of goat milk soap, but did you know some companies take shortcuts? At Old New England Soap, we make our organic goat's milk soap using 36% goat's milk. That's 17% more than most others. Our bars are larger, so they last longer, producing lots of lather packed with vitamins. And our soap is a natural moisturizer that smooths dry and damaged skin. Order online at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. You've tried the rest. Now try the best. oldnesoap.com.
Water-based soaps on supermarket shelves use harsh chemical acids to break down dead skin cells. And that's just not good for you. At Old New England Soap, our soaps are made without chemical ingredients, contain no alcohol or petroleum products, and use 85% organic materials and carry the USDA's organic certification. Try some today. Go to oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have sciatica, then you know all about the crippling pain that travels from your lower back down your leg when a spasm occurs. It's brutal. In fact, it's enough to take your breath away. Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream helps relieve persistent, shooting pains associated with the sciatic nerve in the lower back and legs. This natural, homeopathic cream contains the most potent ingredients to soothe even the most excruciating pain associated with sciatica. Stop the pain now. Ask for Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream at your local health food store or go online to trasknutrition.com.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, Whitley Strieber. This portion of Fade to Black is brought to you by Life Change Tea. Just go to Life Change Tea right now by clicking on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. GetTheT.com is the website. Just mention Jimmy when you order, either online or over the phone. Because you're a fade or not, you're going to get free shipping. GetTheT.com. Okay, Whitley, I want to get into a little bit of a touchy subject for all of us here in our community, which is, and you brought it up, disclosure. And we have so many competing, not only personalities, but opinions, not only about disclosure, but where they're getting their information from. Is disclosure coming from the visitors? Is ET controlling that disclosure? Or it's not going to happen. We need some answers here. What do you think is going on with the channeling or experiencers or abductees that have this information? And what do we need to listen to, and what do you think is going on?
Well, say something along the lines that I'm pretty sure that I don't want to speak for another person, but I won't mention names, but say some of the radar tracks and commentary that's classified, that was done back in the late 50s and 60s about the movement of objects around military bases it was concluded could not be of human origin and were under intelligent control. Say some of that material was released. Then it's not much. I mean, it's something that happened years ago. It's not while John Podesta, in his tweet about this the year ago this month,
yes,
said it's the law that it should be released because it's not a national security issue. It's been over 30 years, and there is no national security significance that's ever been found. Therefore, it is legally not classified anymore. It's just kept secrets hidden. It's hidden. And the reason it's hidden is because for two reasons. First, it's too embarrassing. They have lied about this for all these years. The mainstream press would be humiliated and discredited even further. The president after president would be discredited. The scientific community has been sneering at this for all this time, would be discredited. And who would be credited? Well, a bunch of kooks and booby hatches like me and the other UFO people. So, that's the last thing they want to do, number one. Number two is more serious. And that is that if you release that, I give it 2 days before the media is hauling tearful people on to the television and saying, this person was abducted by aliens, her baby was stolen, or he was raped, or this or that happened, and it may or may not even be true. I mean, it could easily be true. And what are you going to do about this, Mr. Government, now that you've been lying about this for all these years and letting this happen to people? What are you going to do to stop it? And here's the answer. The answer is we don't even know if it happened, and we can't stop it. Now, that's not what government does. Government protects you. That's why we pay taxes. Protects you and keeps you healthy and prosperous. That's the point. And if we have to say that these strange unknown creatures come into our bedrooms at night and there isn't a thing the government can do about it, and you may or may not like what happens in the bedroom, no, they're not going to admit that. They'll never admit it unless they absolutely have to. Never. So disclosure is not going to come down the pike tomorrow. I mean, I do think it's possible now with Trump, if he finds out about this, he might, because he's a Trump card. That's why he called Trump. I play bridge, and I used to play. I haven't played in years, but I used to like to play bridge. And I know what a Trump card is. It's a card of change. And I think it's quite possible that he might say, well, just put this out there and see what happens. I think it's more likely he would do that than Hillary would have, in fact. I'm not so sure anything good will happen, but I think it's possible that he would do that.
What do we do with the experiencers out there that all have consistent stories? You know, my experience, I still don't know how to explain it, so I don't know if it was E.T. or a visitor or I just don't know. There was no spaceships or anything like that involved with me, but I certainly had my experience. But we have all of these experiencers out there now. Is this part of pop culture, or are these indeed real experiences? Because when you speak to them, and I've spoken to hundreds, if not thousands, their experiences to them are indeed real. What are we experiencing with this phenomenon?
It's really complex, and it's a very much of a mixed bag. There are some people who are not telling the truth. There are some people who think they are telling the truth but are not doing so. And there are people who are accurately describing experiences as they perceived them. But whether or not that's what happened is something no one can know, including them. No one can know that. There's a very interesting report that was released a couple of years ago by the British Ministry of Defense called the Condign Report, and it's like umpteen million pages long. And part of it deals with plasmas of unknown to science, as they are described. This is where the unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP phrase comes from. And it's said in the report that these plasmas can cause people to remember things that did not happen. And some of this is that. That could be all of it.
Explain that. Take that a step further. I mean, are you suggesting something that was implanted or, downloaded or uploaded into somebody's head?
I think this has to do with the Rendlesham Forest incident. And I think that what they are trying to say is that some of the people who were involved in that incident got close to some of these so-called plasmas,
right,
and had experiences and perceptions that they don't believe really happened. In other words, the mind was somehow or another screwed around with by the energy that was there. But so you're going to have, what I'm saying here is you're going to have an incredibly complex mix. On the other hand, I got an email yesterday from a guy who had an experience, a close encounter experience 3 days ago in Arizona. And it's a classic close encounter experience. He's working on a telephone line, and he looks down, and this huge object is in a field, just comes into a field nearby, and these strange little emaciated sort of little tiny creatures get out of it and start digging in the soil underneath it. And I thought to myself, boy, that's familiar, because some friends of mine, while I was writing Communion, this is, we're sitting in their breakfast room in their house about a mile from my house. And they looked up in the morning, and they saw these little creatures, just like the guy described, just like I saw, fooling around and apparently taking soil samples in their backyards. And so, it's a classic experience. But what was it? Were aliens there, little emaciated aliens taking soil samples in the backyards of the backyard in upstate New York, and then in Arizona 30 years later, and all the other experiences like that? What the hell is going on? Is it symbolic? Was the fact that he was near the electrical wires doing something to his brain? I mean, you just don't know. And this is what we're going to have to live with if disclosure comes, because disclosure isn't going to mean, okay, now it's all clear. The visitors land on the White House lawn, and the president is given a rolled up set of plans, and we go build a starship. Nothing will change on that level. They're not going to show up just because there was disclosure, but I can assure you that there will be an upsurge in two things. One, people who really have had experiences admitting it for the first time publicly, and two, people claiming experiences that they are not having, because there are going to be people who are thinking, well, wait a minute, I can make a buck out of this if I'm the guy, the go-to guy. And they're going to start opening up websites and doing everything they can to put themselves in the picture. That's all going to happen. So I would be very surprised if the government made an intentional decision to disclose. I would not be so surprised if the president was told about this and then just disclosed it on his own without even telling anybody he was planning to do it.
Right,
That could
right.
happen.
Have you ever been approached by an official government agent, or agent of the government, I should say, to speak to you? Has that ever occurred?
Yeah. I've had people like that up to my cabin many times. They're nice guys, basically, nice to women and men both, and trying to figure out, what's happening, trying to get into a contact experience or something has happened to them. And yeah, there's stuff going on behind the scenes, sure.
Do you think with your conversations with them, did they know what they were talking about? Did they have knowledge?
They did not.
Interesting.
Oh, the average contact close encounter witnesses knows probably a lot more than the government does.
And that was really? Okay, so
yeah, because they're not, it's not happening to these people. That's why they were there. And if it doesn't happen to you, how can you know what it is?
When we talk about that secret file, right, what the CIA knows, or what the NSA knows, or the Air Force, or the FBI, and what have you, are you suggesting that file may not be what we think it is? I mean, to the point of alien bodies at Area 51 and backwards engineering craft, and we've had constant contact and treaties and agreements and communication.
The more detail you fill in, the more folklore you build, I think. I think this is really a very enigmatic thing, and that all of these stories, we just don't know. They're like all folklore, there's a grain of truth in all of it. But it's a grain. It's not the whole truth. We don't know. There's even stories about a group of military people who went to and lived on another planet. I mean, it's just all kinds of stuff, that there's secret bases on Mars, and there's very weird photographs from Mars. In fact, we've got a lot of them on our website. And there's all kinds of stuff out there that suggests an enigmatic, furtive, fleeting presence. I guess kind of like what sheep see when they look out between the wires at the edge of the pasture and watch a passing truck. And they figure they probably have their own idea of what it is and what it means and so on and so forth.
Aliens are here. That's what they're thinking.
Right. But I don't think they would be here if this was something we could never understand. But I don't think we're all that close to it. I think it takes another cycle of evolution of the human mind before we're really comfortable with this material in any kind of concrete way.
How do we define, for most, the visitors and ET and the Greys are one and the same? Obviously, you've been talking about that not being the case. But to those out there, how would you try to explain this, once again, the differences here and what we are actually talking about?
Well, I tell stories. That's how I proceed with this. So all I would do is I would tell them a story. This is the story. I got a letter when I was living up at the cabin, at the post office, at the cabin, which was really hard because this was before the internet. People couldn't find you that easily. From this character, gave me a phone number. So instead of I called the phone number and I talked to him, for a while, for about 15 or 20 minutes. And he was telling me how dangerous the Greys were, how very, very dangerous the Greys were. And then I got a detective to figure out who this was, because there's no caller ID or anything in those days. He traced the phone number to a mail exchange place where you get your mail in Dallas. And the phone was forwarded to a number in Colorado Springs. And I eventually got to talk directly to the individual I had talked to. And in my opinion, he wasn't a human being. In my opinion, he was one of these big blonde people. So I got interested in them. And one night in my apartment in New York, I woke up and I was lying on the couch. I wasn't in the bed, and I never fall asleep on couches. I'm a German. Strieber's a German name. I'm a very Germanic guy. When it's bedtime, I go to bed in my bed, not on the couch. So anyway, I wake up on the couch, and my head is in the lap of this gigantic woman who's like looming up, and there's a man standing beside her, so tall that he's leaning over because otherwise his head would be hitting the ceiling. And I realized that they are these gigantic blonde people. And I think one of them, this is right in the middle of the whole communion shebang, and I'm going on the television again and again and again, and it's just the whole nightmare. And asks me, what can we do for you? And what pops out of my mouth is, you could show me one of your children. Not you could give me a flying saucer.
Right.
You could give me a piece of technology to prove that you were real and what you seem to me to be, et cetera, et cetera. But what I blurt out is something from my core essence. And they leave, they go out the door. I rush out, they're gone. And I'm just left with this, and I think, you stupid moron. Why did you ask a question like that? Why did you answer like that? You idiot. But there was nothing I could do. So about 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm at the old airport in Houston, which used to be called Stapleton Airport. And I am waiting for my ride. I'm in the baggage claim area, and one of those people who who takes authors around on author tours, is going to pick me up. And so I'm waiting for this person to come. Suddenly, the following thing happens. First, the man I met in the previous experience, not the alien, but there was also a human being connected with that, comes walking up. With him is what looks like a 6-year-old that's like nearly 5 feet, at least 5 feet tall, a great gigantic 6-year-old. And with the 6-year-old is this woman who looks like a ludicrously heavily disguised gray, wearing this really cheap dress, and it looks like she's got mortician's wax on her face to make her look sort of vaguely human. I mean, it's just ridiculous disguise. And this is in the baggage claim area. It's not like I'm alone.
Right. It's in public.
Yeah. And they have these golf clubs in this ridiculous anemic golf bag that looks like it's from Auschwitz. I mean, it was just, the whole scene was so crazy. And then it gets much crazier. This giant child and the weirdly, strangely disguised woman start playing patty cake. But they don't just play patty cake. They play patty cake at breakneck speed. You can't even see their hands, and there's this going on in the place, and people are sort of standing around in a circle, clapping and watching them. And then they stop, and the little boy sort of bops a couple times. He smiles. He walks off toward the wall, and the next thing I know, he's just not there anymore. I didn't see him disappear, but he's gone. And a man beside me looks at me and says, "Did you see that?" I say, "I don't know what I saw." And then the woman and the whatever it was, and the guy with the anemic golf bag, they go rushing off too. My ride shows up, and there's still people sort of talking about it, and I'm ready to go, and I'm going, and I get my bags and get in the car, and we're riding out of the airport, and I think, my God, they showed me one of their children.
Right.
But what was with the child? I have one of them telling me that these grays are incredibly dangerous. They've been at war with them for thousands of years. And if you go to war with them, they will never let you win, and they will never let you stop, and all of this horrifying stuff. But what's with the child? A gray is playing patty cake with him. So what the hell does it all mean? I mean, it'll break your brain thinking about that kind of stuff. You just have to get to a quiet place in yourself and be with the questions. And you know what's there in that space, instead of the space where your brain is trying to connect dots you can't really connect? What's there in the question? There is energy and growth and evolution. There's where you need to be.
You know what's funny, and before we wrap up here, I want to thank you for coming on tonight and being so open. Great conversation. Absolutely, just stunning. Learned so much. But today we went through, and you wrote a little bit about this in the journal piece that you released, it was 2 days ago, right, on the 28th. But the shift in consciousness right now, and we have talked so much about this false narrative and the media and how we're lied to, a Big Brother type of 1984 scenario. But what we went through with the fake news and the internet in 2016 showed much of the world that things aren't what they seem. And it just may be that conspiracy is the new normal, right? that everybody's kind of waking up to this false narrative that has been given to us, but also that has affected everybody's mind and the way that they look at things. Do you feel this shift, and is it now okay for guys like you and myself to have this frame of mind that we have today? Do you think this is now starting to be accepted?
It's a time of great confusion. I don't know what will happen next. something unexpected occurred with the Trump election. And when a person has that kind of a knowledge of determinism, big change is taking. The universe is interested, and something's going to happen. And all I can say is this: that in everything we do, we have to look to the three pillars of the soul to make our soul strong: love, compassion, and humility. If we're not doing that, if our political beliefs or so on and so forth make us hate and reject others, if we cannot feel love and cannot live out of love, and if we are arrogant and look down at the other man because of his color or whatever, we're making a mistake. They're doing something wrong. And those are that's the message of Jesus. And as far as I can see, it's the message of the visitors too, as I know them in my life. And maybe there's people say, well, there's evil visitors too. And well, there may be, but they didn't come into my house.
Thank you so much, Whitley. Just seriously, thank you. And everybody come out to Conscious Life Expo next weekend. I can't even believe it. February 10th through the 13th. Whitley will be the tall guy walking around that is glowing, and go up and say hi. Thank you so much, Whitley.
Still has some hair on his head, too, amazingly.
You can wear a hat. I'll talk to you, Whitley. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next weekend.
Bye now.
Whitley Strieber. Again, unknowncountry.com, Strieber.com, and you can certainly follow Whitley on Twitter at Whitley Strieber. What a great conversation and a great man. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. I'll be right back. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now, 323-825-5045.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my... It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave Moisture Control Units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I want to thank Whitley Strieber. Great conversation. Unbelievable. Great man. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Yes, you can follow me on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. And use hashtag F2B. Karen just posted a picture of the moment where we arrived back at the Fader house for the Fader party right after the big sighting at CITD. I've never seen this picture before, and I'm looking at it here. And this was probably taken about 20 minutes after the sighting. And there I am hoisting up a shot that I so desperately needed. But I'm going to say this. Look at my face. Look at my face in that shot. Stunned. That's all I have to say. And you can see it right there. I mean, we were stunned is the only word that I can use. So there you go. If you want to see a picture of the moment that we arrived and we said nobody knew, and I sat down and with Rita, and who is sitting next to me here, and unbelievable. And look, everybody's in the shot. There's Jose Torres. Man, there's John, there's Les, there's Gabriel, there's Cortana, there's Nurse Nancy. Everybody's in this shot, so there you go. All right. Whew, what a moment that was. All right, I'm opening up the phone lines, 323-825-5045. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for taking my call. It's Brent from Prosper.
How are you, Brent?
Hey, I just have a quick question about with Strieber. I read the communion books. My dad had bought them when I was like 16 years old, and I read it then. Scared the hell out of me because in the first communion book, Strieber mentions it doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States and you have Secret Service standing outside your bedroom door. They can get to you. And my question is, why don't they go to the President of the United States then? And not Whitley Strieber?
Well, okay. My first comment with something like that is, how do we know that they haven't? Number one. Not everybody shares these experiences, too. And three, you kind of have to be selected, and you have to be on the right side of special. All right. Do you know what I mean? And if you're a negative person, or if you're not going to handle this correctly, or take this experience and use it in a negative fashion, they know that.
Well, take it from this point. If it was you or me, and maybe we're not as intelligent as aliens,
right?
But if we were going to do it, would we go to Whitley Strieber to put out the message, or would we go to, say, Donald Trump or George W. Bush or somebody else to put out the message?
Well, again, I think it's their choice. But one thing is for sure, Brent, and I really mean this, that it's not going to help or change or do anything. It's quite frankly, it's just not. Nothing would come of that. I understand what you're saying. I totally do, and it goes back to one of the most famous statements that is made time and time again. You know, when the flying saucers land on the White House lawn, right? Okay, it's the very same frame of mind. I can only go through my own experiences and like Whitley's, what has happened to me and what I've seen out there. For me, disclosure has already happened. There's just no question about it. I know what I've seen, and there's something going on. I can't explain it, but look at it this way, and this is the best way to do it. When you are walking down a sidewalk and you see ants on the ground, are you inclined, because you see these ants, not using cell phones, that cell phones would help their lives? And you know, would you stop at that moment and go, dude, we got to teach you how to use these cell phones? You know, you can't. And when you look at the human evolution, the fact that man itself, in a modern sense, we've got about 2,000 years behind us that we know of, has been here in this iteration for about 150,000 years. Very, very, very small sliver of time that we're dealing with. And if E.T. gets to this planet from wherever he is coming from, that means not the time that it takes him to get here, but how far away that planet is. And you have to look at it in space-time or in light years. Now, let's just pick something. Let's pick the closest. Let's pick Alpha Centauri, right? It's 4.5 light years away. 4.5. That's a long, long time. Not distance, but time. Maybe they can get here in 5 minutes or a blink of an eye. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is the existence of them is older than us. So they could potentially be 1 million years more advanced. 1 billion years more advanced. And if you think about how smart we have gotten from 1900 to 2016, the advances that we've gone from covered wagons to the moon and to the internet and the technology that we have today in just a short 100 years, right? Well, imagine
are you saying time is of the essence?
What I'm suggesting here is the level of intelligence of something that would be 1 million or 1 billion years ahead of us. Think about that. Think about where we would be in 1,000 years. If we've gotten this smart, right, in the last 100 years from 1900 to now, how much smarter are we going to be in 1,000 years? Well, if another species out there is literally 1 million or 1 billion years more advanced and experienced than us, then they would look at us as ants. And there's nothing that we would understand, pretty much, that they would communicate with us. We wouldn't have the ability to understand.
But we do understand the concepts of a queen ant.
But the queen ant doesn't understand us.
No, but we do understand that the queen ant runs things, and maybe we should communicate with the queen ant.
Right, and we can't.
Get it done, right?
And we can't. And that's what I'm trying to suggest here. I'm only speaking with our own experience. I'm basing everything here on how we would handle it. You know, you can't teach a goldfish or a monkey. You can't teach a monkey how to program code on a computer. You just can't. And that's just the way that things are. And I am sure that we are perceived in the exact same way. You know, the level of communication, speaking to us in very simple terms. You know, we need to change the way we look. You know, the way that we act, and we need to figure out consciousness, and we can't ruin the planet. Those are concepts we can understand. But high tech.
So therefore, we're all ants, and they're just trying to basically randomly, because they think we're all the same. They're just trying to randomly communicate.
I would suggest that they know where we are as far as the evolution of not only us as a species in the earth, but where our mind and consciousness is. And they're very cognizant of that. But giving us too much that we just couldn't handle. I mean, we couldn't have any concept of where their intelligence really is. We could not handle it. Could not. But yet they do know that we have nukes, and they can shut those down, but They don't know who controls them. Say that again. They don't know who controls them? What do you mean?
Controls the nukes, the nuclear weapons.
I don't think that it's beyond coincidence that we've used them twice and have never used them offensively again. And that every time and it's kind of like the grandfather paradox or some of the theories with time travel, that I every time that it is considered or maybe talked about, that something stops it. You know, and I don't.
That's a good theory.
Yeah, I don't think that is beyond coincidence. And Whitley brought this up tonight, and I'm fascinated with this about the interference that has been occurring repeatedly over our nuclear installations, which goes back to not only Rendlesham, but of course Malmstrom Air Force Base and those nuclear silos, and that stuff being shut down while there was an unidentified object over the entrance of the base, and shifting over to another set of nuclear silos. This stuff is documented and is real, and we have to consider that. I really do. I think there's something to it.
I get what you're saying there, and I mean that is really a great argument. However, they're so intelligent that they can shut that down, and all of that. But however, they don't know who's controlling it.
I don't understand what you mean. I don't understand.
They don't know who's controlling it, and they're not contacting those people. They're contacting people like Whitley Strieber.
Right. Sure. And they've contacted me.
Why would they not be contacting Trump?
I have.
And Obama. And
have you made contact? Have you had an experience?
Well, I don't know. I maybe I've seen some stuff that, but no, have I been directly contacted? No.
Right. Right. Well, I feel that I have. I can't explain it, and why me? I just don't know.
Well, I think what you've seen, I've seen at least.
Right.
I don't know that I've been contacted.
Right.
Not like Whitney saying he's been contacted.
Right.
I mean that's damn scary.
Well, and the other part of that is we need to listen. I don't think, and Brent, I want to get to some other phone calls, and I want to thank you because these are very, very insightful questions. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, and I do respect your opinion, man, and thank you for raising all of these issues. All right?
Well, like I said, good point. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, absolutely, Brent. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Kendra, Ventura County.
Hi, Kendra, Ventura County. Turn me down in the background.
Okay, sorry about that. Here, hang on a second. Okay?
Okay. What's on your mind?
Well, I am torn between two models of thought in the ET world. And there's two people I both respect very highly, Dr. Stephen Greer and then Linda Moulton Howe.
Right.
And Greer's approach is that there really are not any negative ETs. If there's any negative abductions or cattle mutilations, that's probably us, and that all ETs are benign. And then Linda Moulton Howe's, and of course so many other researchers and experiencers, do have negative experiences, or they're talking about the reptilians. And so, but going to the two I respect the most, they're contradictory. And I don't know what to believe. I would prefer to believe that all ETs are benign and have nothing but our best interests at heart. So I wanted to find out your take on it personally, Jimmy, and then also Fate or Not. If we have any more callers call in on this, what model people are feeling is the true one.
Well,
and I'll take my answer off the air.
Okay, thank you so much for the phone call, Kendra, and a great, honest question, too, as well. I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Is this? Yes, and I get that. This question comes up about not only Stephen Greer, but others, and Linda Moulton Howe. Linda, is quite vocal. I remember one time she said to me, we had an old logo that we used to use a few years ago, and she was like, Jimmy, you got to create another piece of artwork because I want to put Fade to Black on Earth Files, but I can't have the negative feeling that I get from your logo. And she is very vocal about that. She wants people to understand that, not everything is good, that some of them, do not have our best interest at heart. And then you have, Stephen's position and others where everything is benign. Now, look, my take, and I'll be very, very straightforward with this, is we have to listen to everybody. Whitley said it very clearly here. We don't know. We don't. We have to listen to everybody. Everything has to be moved to the center of the table and discussed. One of the things that I find confusing, and it kind of angers me, is that Stephen Greer, and I've spoken to him about this, isn't open to a discussion on this. And I've seen, and I've tried to do this too, tried to open, and he will not. And other researchers out there are the exact same way. I'm not in any way pointing fingers directly at Greer. Everybody out there is also as strong in their opinions. And what I would like is for everybody to just agree. I know it's tough, but just to sit down and go, okay, you know what? This is what I know, but tell me what you know, right? Let's talk about this, and let's just get all of this information out there and be open and open to a discussion. That's what we need. I think that closing down other people and saying that they are wrong and I am right, I don't buy into that. And nobody out there knows it all. Nobody. There isn't one researcher out there that knows everything. Okay? And the way that Whitley puts it, we don't know. We just don't. Right? And the other thing, for sure, that I am pretty confident about is that in the vastness of the universe, in just this universe, there's multiple universes, but just ours. And then we reduce that down to, all the billions of galaxies out there, and we shrink things down to our Milky Way and how large it is, right? The amount of life and different ET races and species that are out there are infinite. It continues. Infinite, not 1, 2, 3. I'm talking about an infinite number, a number that is so large and so crazy, right? But it has to be that way. So what knows about Earth here right now? A lot. And it's an infinite amount of races. Some don't care that we are here. Some do. And the amount of them that have been visiting this planet for millions and millions of years, maybe a billion years longer, is a crazy large number. And who has been in contact with Greer is possibly just a benign race. And he hasn't experienced anything negative. And so that's all that he knows. Kind of like that goldfish in the bowl, right? It's the same thing. And the research that Linda has done, or Corey Good, or others that are out there, they've got their own information, and we need to listen to all of it. I will not close down my mind to this subject, and I will not say one is right and one is wrong. My job is to bring all of them here on this show. Let's listen to them all and collect that information. All right, Kendra, I hope I answered your question. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hey, Jimmy, how's it going tonight?
It's going great. Who's calling?
This is John T. from Twitter. How's it going, man?
Oh, hey, John T. All right, you causing trouble?
No, I'm just fascinated. I think this is, God, you're just kicking off 2017 with some great shows, man. And this was just another one. Great stuff. Love Whitley.
It's all easy. It's all easy when you have great guests and you guys listening. It's a walk in the park. And all the credit goes to Rita. I'm just the dude on the microphone. I'm just the dude on the mic. So what's on your mind tonight, John?
Hey, man, you were talking about communication with other species, and I couldn't help but think about how Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about it. He said, we share 95% of our DNA with monkeys, and that 5% difference accounts for everything that we experience today. It accounts for space travel to the moon, if you believe all that. It accounts for computers. It accounts for electricity, DVDs, high-def TV, all of it. And we still can't communicate with that species that has 95% match of our DNA, and we still can't communicate effectively with it.
Right.
Sure, there have been some anomalies in there, right? Like I think there was one gorilla they taught sign language, and they've taught some chimpanzees some sign language. Well, then he says, go in the same direction we are from the chimpanzees. Go another 5%, and the smartest among humans would be just blathering idiots to them. And that's fascinating when you think about that.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. And I've heard him speak about this before. The other part about that, though, John, which is, to me, the most perplexing, is chimpanzees have 4 extra chromosomes, right?
Yeah.
4 extra pairs. Shouldn't it be the opposite, right?
Yeah, right.
Right, that's that.
Or maybe they know some things that we don't.
Oh, there's no question about that. Trust me. There's no question about that. But it should be the opposite. So who knew when the snipping was going on with the DNA? And of course, I'm suggesting that is a very strong possibility. 150,000 years ago, we just appeared on Earth, and who was snipping and who knew what to snip and what to connect and to make correct, that we could turn into what we did with 4 less pairs. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, that's pretty interesting. So something was inserted there to make us laugh, have humor, dream, and event, and create, and also speak. Right?
Yeah.
The no matter what, with monkeys and chimps and apes and orangutans and all of that, they can scream really, really loud. It's piercing, but they can't do what we do. They don't have that capability. So sign language we can do, right? Because that's not a vocal thing, but they'll never be able to talk.
But there's more going on too, though, because like I heard on another podcast today, they bred chickens for, I don't know what they said, 15 generations, and they just kept breeding these chickens, and they would never show them a hawk, ever. They would keep them in captivity, keep them covered. Then at the 15th generation, they would fly over squares and circles and other shapes. Nothing happened. The first time they flew over a hawk, all the chickens started screaming. They'd never seen a hawk. 15 generations ago was when they saw a hawk.
Right.
And they started screaming. They knew. Something about them knew. There was something carried through the DNA into future generations. There's more, obviously, going on than any of us know about that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I can't remember and thank you for the phone call. We're at the end of the show, but I'm going to get this thought in. I can't remember the name of the bird over in Great Britain, but milkmen would, and this happened in the late 30s, early 40s. Milkmen would deliver milk, right? And these birds, like little sparrows, I can't remember the name of them, figured out how to go down and remove the caps on the milk bottles to get at the milk, right? So they figured this out. Now, and what was interesting here is that this was local, right? And then the milk delivery service had stopped. It was World War II, right? It was London. And so a couple of generations of birds go away, and they no longer know about the milk being delivered. And if I've got this story a little incorrect, don't sue me or anything. But basically, this is what happened.
I'm not going to shoot you.
No. So
we love you over here.
So check this out. So then when the milk service started again in another city outside of London after the war, the birds immediately knew how to do it. Now, how do you explain that? Now, is it something is that some kind of quantum entanglement, right? Where it is jumping from city to city and it's in the DNA, right? And the second that the milk service started again, they instinctually went and figured that out. So there you go. Hey, John, last phone call of the night, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. What a great show tonight. Thank you for all of the phone calls. And, Whitley Strieber, what more can be said? I've just got to thank Whitley one more time for that. Just a great conversation tonight. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. And, of course, followed by open lines all night long. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to Whitley Strieber and everyone who called in and tweeted tonight. Great chat room. Awesome. Everything was cool. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tomorrow night, John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Fader Night, followed by Open Lines. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.